Allow us to take a journey trip into our minds, where constant conscious conspiracies is what you'll find. Cause see, this is only the unified version of the BBC podcast, where BB is Bryan Barnett and the other half is Blake Burton, you dig? Where we have topics that might frighten you, but are only here to enlighten you, as two of Seattle's brightest dudes ignite the truth and then just do it like the Nike swoosh. So again, we cordially invite you to the BBC podcast, Blake Burton and Bryan Barnett Conspiracies. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. We still don't have an intro yet. We're going to figure it out. This is only episode 2. But this is the BBC podcast with Blake Burton and Bryan Barnett. Blake Burton, Bryan Barnett, Conspiracies. Bryan, anything you want to say?
BBC, Blake Burton, Bryan Barnett, also known as British Broadcasting Channel, but no affiliation.
So today our topic is COVID-19. I wanted to title it coronavirus, but when you actually look at it, there's like actually different strains of coronavirus, and coronavirus is like the generalization term. So no one actually has just the coronavirus, because the coronavirus includes SARS, MRSA, or whatever, all these different strains. So in this episode, there's 1, 2, 3, 8 of us. So that's cool because it's a Zoom chat. Usually our goal for the overall podcast is to record at our studio and have 1 or 2 guests on each episode to talk about a specific topic. Like me and Fierley, we talked about doing like a serial killer episode, because there's actually like Seattle's like the #1 spot for serial killers, which is pretty sad. But in the world, which is freaking crazy. But anyways, we'll start off by introducing ourselves. I'm Blake Burton, Got Emotion the Poet, Bryan Barnett. Josh, you can start off. Or Jay Fierley. It's Joshua, so I called you Josh. That's who I.
What's up? What's going on, everybody? I'm Jay Fierley, also known as Josh Fierley. I've done a podcast once with him before. This is my second time being a part of one of his podcasts, or one of the podcasts that he's associated with. I'm just here to weigh in on my opinions, let you guys know how I feel about it, and hopefully at the end of all this, we can have learned something and progressed a little bit.
Okay, Caj, your turn.
What's going on, everybody? My name's Caj. I'm a Seattle hip-hop artist. I also have my own podcast titled The Seattle Lunch Table. We discuss different hip-hop topics, have different guests up there as well, just from people around the culture, and mainly music and hip-hop based, but we try to get a little bit of everything in there, and just share a few thoughts with y'all today, man. Good to be here.
Gavan?
I'm an old friend of Blake. I also kind of just wanted to join and express my opinion on what's going on right now. Yeah.
Awesome. And your name is Sline?
Sarah. Yeah, when I created this thing, I didn't know how it worked, so I put down a username. I didn't put down my actual name. But so my name is Sarah. I'm a friend of Bryan's, and listened to your first podcast, and I said, yeah, I want to be on that. So got the text today. I said, I'm there. So I'm here to share with all y'all, and yeah, I'll just have a good chat.
Sounds good. Carter?
Oh, hey guys, I'm Carter, and I've known Blake for a couple of years now, and I'm excited to be on this podcast. It's my first time, and excited to learn and talk about how I feel about this topic.
Awesome. We'll end with you.
Cool. So my name's Nikita, and I'm a friend of Bryan's, and so just like Gavan said, I'm here to just listen, hear what everybody has to say. I guess I could say I have a few opinions, but they're not really strong opinions about the coronavirus. I'm really here to, if there's any information, just to gain and learn and educate myself a little bit. So excited to be a part of this.
So first off, I think we should start off by saying like how everyone's managing during this whole quarantine. So Motion, you can start.
I'm doing pretty good. Just been like writing a lot, and just like staying indoors, just trying to kind of like do a lot of the things that were like self-care things, but just a little bit more frequently. And just keep my head up type of deal. I think this is a time a lot of people are feeling like a lot of different ways about, because of there's being like a lot of information. So just, processing what I think is going to be like, helpful for me to continue to just kind of sustain the way that I am. It's going pretty good. You know what I mean? So just, trying to just keep doing that on the regular. So can't complain.
Sure. What about you, Fierley?
I'm doing pretty good. I've got a company that I work for. I'm fortunate enough that I can stay home and still get paid a percentage of what I was getting paid. So although my company is deemed essential, I don't actually have to go to work myself. I'm more concerned about people that are still working, people close to home. My mother is a postal worker, so she's out interacting with all kinds of different people and touching all that mail. So that's a little concerning. But overall, myself, I'm doing pretty well. I don't have any complaints. Never ran out of TP, so I'm on top.
Yes. Did you hear about the fucking people that are like spitting on packages and like delivering them and shit?
Yeah, that's ludicrous. I don't understand what would make you want to what the fuck?
Yeah, people are getting arrested for like saying I have corona and trying to like cough on police and stuff.
Yeah, that's like when people were licking ice cream. It's wild.
Oh yeah, I remember that. One of them was on Dr. Phil.
Oh
I saw that. It was like an influencer. So what about you, Caj? How are you holding up?
I'm doing good, man. Like the whole quarantine stuff, staying inside, that's really not changing too much of what I do on like a daily basis. Like music and stuff. So this is just giving me the opportunity to kind of write even more. I'm able to work from home. I can work completely remote, have all the same functionality as if I'm in the office. So that's been good. None of my family's been affected, and so that's a blessing too. What else? Yeah.
And I interviewed Big Jones yesterday. He said he had like a in-house studio or something.
Oh, yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Oh, that's dope. So what about you, Gavin?
For me, it hasn't affected me as much, but like for me, I feel like this time has kind of been time to like reset for me, because I do a lot of e-commerce work and like online stuff, so it's like usually pretty stressful with like time management and stuff like that. So I feel like now it's been a time for me to be able to like reset all of that and kind of get myself together again. Like I had a really bad like sleep schedule before this, and I've kind of been able to like catch up on it and like catch up on sleep and stuff like that. But like I created this thing with my dad. We've done this thing where it's like we've been connecting a lot of like suppliers who can supply like masks and like test kits and things like that with lots of hospitals around the country and in like Canada and stuff like that. So we have like a website for it, which I've been working on. That's kind of what I've been spending a lot of my time on.
So you and Carter are still in high school, and who was that kid that like made that like whole coronavirus website?
Oh, his name was Avi Schiffman.
Have you looked at it? Like, is it actually like helpful and shit, or?
I looked at it once. It's pretty helpful, but I don't know, Gavin, you know more about me, so.
Yeah, it's like a website. I guess he created in like December, and it's kind of website, just an informational one. So I guess he had kind of made it way before this had become a major issue. So he's been kind of working on that for a few months now, and yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it was a big story because apparently he turned down putting like ads on the website or something, which would have made him like a large amount of money, which is what he's claiming. Which is, if that's true, which is like really incredible, because I guess he's trying to not use the situation to like take money from people or make more money. He's trying to like actually help people. So
yeah,
for sure. And that's one thing we're going to do at the end of this podcast. I'll attach like helpful links to the bio and everything like that. So that's a link we can attach. So what about you, Sarah? How are you managing?
You know, I really appreciate the positivity that everybody's given here, but I'm going to keep it stacked. First couple of weeks were a little rough. I am an extrovert, like 100%. And so I was not built for this, but, you know, I think it really has been a chance for like me to slow down and just like take a second, like kind of what Bryan said, just like doing those self-care things more regularly and like allowing that to become part of a routine rather than just, oh, I'll do it when I have time. So that's kind of where my head's been at. Been doing lots of art stuff. I draw, and I don't have a specific medium, but I have been trying out different ones. Started watercolor yesterday, so we're feeling fly. We're feeling good. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'd hope that it's getting to the end for sure. Because I mean, I am fortunate enough to work from home, but never thought I'd say this, but I kind of miss my coworkers, low key.
What about you, Carter?
Awesome.
So for me, I'm still in high school with Gavin, and I'm a senior this year, so it's kind of tough because a bunch of the like graduation and prom and all that got canceled this year, which I was looking forward to, which kind of sucked. But I've been trying to stay positive. I've been like working on school stuff because we have online school now, getting ready for college next year, and I've been swimming in the lake and at my friend's pool because I'm swimming next year in college. So just trying to like focus on myself and have the best like outlook that I can.
Yeah.
Are they still going to do like finals and stuff, or how is that going to work?
I don't think so. From the class, we have had meetings for our classes over Zoom, and from what I can tell from most of my classes, it'll be like just quizzes, no like big tests or finals, because you can't really like monitor like if students are being like honest or like not cheating at home. So I don't think, I think they're doing pass fail for classes. Probably. I don't know if it's official yet, but I don't know. I can't see them like putting actual letter grades out this semester. So
yeah,
makes sense. What about you, Nikita?
Yeah, so like I used to work at a yoga studio, and because it was one of the businesses that was affected, I was out of a job, and then unfortunately my ass did not qualify for that check that was coming in. And so just because I graduated from college last year and they went off my 2018 taxes, and so that kind of like had a little roadblock in all of that with the finances and everything. And I just recently picked up a job at Target just because since I didn't qualify for that, I just had to figure out like another form of income. And so I was risking it all. I was risking it all to work at Target. And so now like it's my third day out there, and I'm just like, it's not that bad, but also I noticed that Target's like one of the places last to adapt to the situation, because I don't know if you all have seen at like QFC, Costco, they have those like glass or plexiglass barriers. But like Target just got them today, and I'm like, okay, we're making moves, but they're tiny but mighty. And other than that, since I just got the job over there, I haven't been working like a lot of hours, but on my free time, like I'm picking up coding, which is pretty cool. Like, I don't know, I just found some online free classes that Harvard offers too, just to throw that out there. If you just like Google it. So I just started that and have been doing a lot of like self-development, self-improvement on the other side of things, but that's how I'm doing.
Yeah, that's dope. I want to attach that link also. That sounds cool. So Motion, you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, so kind of open-ended question. Really anybody could kind of hop in on this, but one thing I wanted to ask anybody was, this coronavirus kind of seems like a newer strain of something that we're not necessarily super familiar with, but I believe that there are people that say that they're like, oh, I felt like I had this last year. Like I felt like I had, kind of started this off and this had just kind of been in hiding. So I kind of want to see what you guys think about, that idea of like, was this always kind of around, or like, do you think this is, something that, kind of did make its way over, or what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I don't know. I am not an expert, right? I only have the sources that you can find online, and you got to take everything with a grain of salt because you just don't know. But from what I've seen and from what I've read, because there is a patent out on it, which is pretty common with a lot of things that you come across. I mean, I don't necessarily think it has to be man-made to get a patent. You know what I mean? Maybe you can get a patent for it because you need to make a vaccine for it, or you need to learn more about it. So you want to make sure you can always have it in a controlled environment. Because it is so small and so hard to see, you have to really use like the world's finest microscopes to see what the, I don't want to say proteins because I don't know, but what they look like. It's easy to say that maybe during transfer last year or in the previous years that it's existed, or that we've known about this specific strain. I say we as like whoever has been like dealing with it to try to stop it or combat it. It's possible it could have leaked out and they didn't know, and it just was passed off as a common cold or flu-like symptoms. It's really possible that could have happened. But again, you don't know. You just kind of go with the bits of information you're given, and you kind of just collect your own opinion, more or less.
No, all right.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Years is a good point too. It's definitely not something that just happened in January. You know, it couldn't have just made that leap that fast from an animal to a human within a few weeks. So it's definitely something that's been evolving. You know, of course, a virus evolves faster than a human or another animal, but it's definitely been around for a while. I think maybe it was mistreated for a while, in a sense. What do you guys think about that? Do you think it's a newer thing, or do you think it's been around for a while?
Well, I think like what Bryan was talking about, because like I myself, so like I get sick about every November, change of the seasons or whatever. But this last time, I thought it was going to take me out. I was like, this is the sickness that is just way different than any sickness I'd had before. And then I saw this thing on Twitter that was like, hey, do y'all remember being sick like the last week of November and you went to the doctor and they're like, I don't know. And you're like, well, and it's like, was that the coronavirus or, and so I don't know. I think that, I don't know. I know that there are obviously like conspiracies about like whether it was created by, you know, the area it started in to do this or that, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe that was just like a weird sickness, mutated cold or what, but I mean, it has been around, like different strains of it, like we've talked about, but yeah, I don't know.
Gotcha. Anything you want to weigh in on, Nick? Cash?
Oh yeah, I was about to say.
I'm just looking at everyone's names, so I'm just using their, even though I know your guys' names, I'm looking at your fucking usernames, and I'm like,
Yeah, I don't really know what to think of the whole situation because, you know, like no one I know has been impacted, and so I don't really know what to say about that. I didn't get sick this whole last, you know, quote unquote flu season during the winter time when I usually do, which is weird. And I usually sometimes I get sick when I'm being extra cautious. So I was my same cautious self this year as I always was, and I don't know. I didn't even get a sniffle or nothing this year, so it's been kind of odd to see it all kind of take off all around me, but like none of my circle has been impacted.
Yeah.
what about you, Gavin and Carter? How, because you guys are around more people than any of us, basically, because you're going to school and stuff. But of course, like it's online now, but it supposedly doesn't affect the youth. But have you seen anyone at school or that have family members that have had it, or even a kid have it?
I haven't heard of anyone at our school having it. There was a few kids, I believe, or I don't remember if it was kids or if it was high school teachers, but there are some schools that got shut down earlier than all the other ones because there were cases at the school. I think there was one with a student who got it, but I know there were some teachers that got it and I think maybe some janitors. But if we're talking about if the virus is like newer or not, I personally think that like you were saying earlier, like the coronavirus is a bunch of like different, it's like a name for a bunch of different like strains and stuff. I think this strain is probably newer because if we were all getting it in November, I think it would have, especially if we were getting it where we are now, I think we would have seen a lot more like hospitalizations and a lot more signs that it was here earlier than just like people like reporting more people getting sick. I don't know. I think that when it came over is like in like January or like February is when it really started like taking off in our country. I think it would have happened earlier if it was here in like November or October. So I think that this strain of coronavirus is definitely new. I don't think it's been here that long. So.
Gotcha. Anything you want to add, Gavin?
No, like I agree with Carter, but like I also think that a lot of places kind of handled this a bit late. I feel like a lot of like, especially for schools around here, I think like Seattle schools and like Renton and like all of those schools were only shutting down if there was like a direct like relationship with the virus to someone at the school. Like if there was like a family member that had it, if they wouldn't shut it down though if there was no cases. And I feel like that was kind of like a mistake, because like I feel like it kind of just helped with it spreading even more. And for example, our school kind of they hosted this very big like band tour thing, and like I feel like a lot of people weren't taking it seriously. There was like 800 kids at our school that didn't go to our school when this was like already a big thing, and it just didn't seem like a lot of places were taking it too seriously, especially schools around here. So I don't know. I think that I agree with Carter though, that in November when everyone was getting the virus, or like the regular flu virus, I feel like if it was this corona thing, a lot of people would have been hospitalized, but it didn't seem like that. It just seemed like a regular flu season.
I also think that one of the biggest problems is people were in denial, because like it's obviously crazy. Like this hasn't happened before in like 100 years or so. So like I feel like people weren't taking it as seriously as like they should, because they're like, oh yeah, like, it won't get that bad. Like it'll be gone in a month. People are like putting it off, but we should have handled it better. The schools should have handled it better. Everyone should have handled it better. But it was hard to like actually believe what was like happening to everyone in our country and the world. So
Anything you want to add, Nikita?
Well, throughout this just whole conversation, I was just thinking of the symptoms of getting sick, and like, you know, it's allergy season. So I have like really bad allergies. I don't know about any of you guys. And so for me having to work at Target now, I'm just like, I can't. I feel like super weird about sneezing or just like sniffling my nose. And I don't know how any of you guys handle it in public. Do you hold that cough in like until you have to like step out? Or that's something that I was thinking, like, how are you guys handling it all in terms of being respectful in public and not looking like you're contagious?
Pretty much that. Just try to be discreet about it, you know? I mean, I guess it depends on the person that hears you cough more than you coughing. It depends on how paranoid or how cautious or how, you know, how worried they are. I don't think it's too crazy of a thing, but I definitely feel weird though when I sneeze. I feel like I want to tell somebody, it's okay, I have allergies. Like, it don't go to work.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Anyone that knows me knows I have the worst sneeze imaginable. It's like it's so loud. So luckily I've just been staying home, so no one has to worry about my sneezes. Because if I had the coronavirus, probably 20 people near me would get it, because it's like a nuke when I sneeze. So, but have you guys? New question. Unless any of you guys want to add anything on to how long you guys think it's been around. Okay, new question. How have you guys mostly been staying home, or are some of you guys still going out during this, or how are you guys managing it that way?
I've been staying home for most of it. The only time I really leave the house is either to like walk my dog in the park, or like that's really about it. Like I stay home. You know, it's my duty. I don't have an obligation to go do a job. I have school at home, so there's not really any point of me like going out and like trying to like hang out with people or get food. It's just like it's my duty to stay home, and like that's how I can help the situation. So I'm going to do it. So.
So Caj, so you know, you've seen all those like coronavirus songs and stuff like that. Have you decided to try to make any of those, or what are your opinions on those?
I don't really know yet. I mean, I did kind of do something slight. Did a little like I made the Triller video, TikTok type video. That was like cool. That was probably like the only thing that I really did. That was kind of like some media content that was related to the coronavirus. I don't know. I definitely see the whole scheme behind it. You know what I mean? It's probably got the #1 SEO right now on the internet, and so you know, making some content like that would probably be beneficial. Question though? Oh, but like, oh yeah, I just been staying home. I've gone out really just like they were saying, I just been out anytime I have to walk my dog, and I've visited like a few parks just like at night, so there's literally nobody there.
Except
yeah.
serial killers. But what about you, Fierley?
I pretty much just been staying home. I actually just released 3 songs the other day. So I've just been really focused on, writing as much music as like you said earlier, just really focused on writing as much music as possible. I've actually managed to connect with a few artists that I probably never would have if I wasn't forced to reach out to them via internet. You know what I mean? There's just no possibility I would have interacted with them any other way. So that's pretty cool. I was able to, find an overcoming. Today, I mean, other than general, just like going out, restocking on food, getting allergy medication, the few things that I do need. Today I did go to Lincoln Park in Seattle, and to my surprise, there was a pretty good amount of people there. Not very many people were like driving about and parking there, but once I actually walked down to like the beach section, there was a pretty good amount of people. Not so much that you couldn't stay away from everybody, but it was decent. It was good to get out. I didn't have to be within 6 feet of anybody, so that was cool. But it was nice to get out of the house and not have to look at these 4 walls in every room.
What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I've just been staying at home. I have a roommate, and so we've just been hanging out. So I've been forced to talk to them, which is, it's been all right. But yeah, I've just been going to the grocery store, and then I have a park up at my house. Actually, don't live in the Seattle area. I live in Wenatchee, so shout out to us one time. But yeah, there's a park up by my house, and so I walk up there every other day or so. But there's not a lot of people there, which is good. But I'm just like, oh wait, I'm part of the problem, and then I walk back home.
Dang. Anything you want to add, Emotion, and then you can ask the next question.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I mean, trying to stay inside as much as possible. But I do still work. So like I work with kids. So like a lot of the like contact that we would have with the kids is actually very minimal. We're in like a stage 4 right now. So we're only really kind of providing support as far as just like dropping off like on Fridays, actually where I just came from, go to the office, pick up X amount of different food bags and like different bags just full of supplies and things that families might be able to put to use during this time, and just doing like weekly like homework packet drop offs to a lot of my kids, and just trying to keep their spirits up, doing a lot of Zoom calls very similar to this, trying to kind of talk to them. One of me and my kids, we had started writing a poetry book like this time last year, so we actually finished it yesterday. So just trying to do different things like that at the house, and manage my time well as anybody whose time I can be intentional with. But yeah, man, just trying to stay inside as much as possible, besides going to the grocery store, or just getting out and doing a drive, just trying to see something that's like you said, not the 4 walls. So yeah, man, just doing what we can. But yeah, for the next question I did want to ask you guys, so what are your guys' kind of thoughts as far as like the coronavirus, and kind of, and not in like necessarily a morbid way, but just kind of like how it's kind of changed like society, like socially, or kind of environmentally, in the way of people are gonna have to bounce back from this in a different way, and have to maybe change life, and like handshakes might become foreign, or like not necessarily do a lot of the same social norms. So what are your guys' kind of thoughts on that? Do you think things will always maybe kind of stay how they were prior to this, or like do you think that's going to be like the plastic films that they put in front of the cash register, like do you think those are not going anywhere like ever again? What do you guys kind of think about something like that?
Yeah, I think that like this, I mean, a lot or all of the problems, I would argue, that exist within every single system in anything, whether it's the job that you have in Seattle, Wenatchee, whatever, or, on this like federal level, they're all coming to light, and they cannot be avoided anymore. And so we're watching these structures kind of like at least start to crumble. And so I think that the result of that will be significant policy changes, and also just like on a day-to-day, people will keep their distance, and which I mean isn't the worst thing, right? I don't like people, so it's whatever. I'm just playing. That ain't the truth. But and the reason why I'm thinking kind of bigger picture like that is because I work for the federal government, and so that is kind of at the forefront of my mind, and all of these things. And I was reading an article the other day it would have been probably actually a week or two ago, from New York, and how they had to activate the tier 1 of their like disaster plan, and that was the refrigerator units, because they didn't have enough. Sorry, this is like real morbid, but they didn't have enough like places to store the deceased. And that kind of like took me like a second to be like, whoa, like tier 2 and 3 like ended up being activated, and like the 3rd tier was mass graves. They didn't say it like that, but like, and so funny enough, actually, that article I think was on BBC. So, but again, no affiliation. But, always looking out. Gotcha. But no, it's just like, you know, people, even if you're not affected by it directly, it's like to see that and like know that, oh dang, like we live in a society that can't even, you know, provide subsequent funeral services for people who have passed if it's in that kind of large situation. Which, again, how do you prepare for that? This doesn't happen all the time, but I think it will force different structures to be in place.
Yeah, and I think we're not going to really have a choice for a while, because until this virus goes away, we're going to have to, it's either going to go away by the general population having like immunity to it, or a vaccine. Because if the numbers of infections go down, and we can't just like go back to living how we used to right before, like it's going to have to be like slow and gradual, because if we go back immediately, in the infections and hospitalizations and everything's going to go like rocket right back up. So I think no matter what, we're going to have to figure out how to like live differently with this virus until either we have a vaccine or a solution, or like the general population has immunity to it in a few years. So I think we don't really have a choice, and we're going to have to adapt to the situation if we want to, I don't know, just have the best chance of like continuing through this.
Sure. Anything you want to add, Nikita?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of about it, like not in terms of the virus itself, just in terms of reflection, because now everybody had to stop. Like they had to put their life on hold. And, you know, we talk about the rat race, and we talk about capitalism, and we talk about how everything in life is moving so fast. This is the opportunity for everything to like stop, and people to like, hey, these are the things that I can do differently, whether it goes for hygiene or mental health. And I know it kind of sucks for people who are dealing with mental illness now, because they feel extra trapped inside their house and they can't get those resources that they normally go to. But things that I have been practicing well beyond just when this coronavirus started is just practices of mindfulness, and yoga is like a big thing for me. And looking inside instead of looking for the answers outside. So when I talk about like capitalism, living a more minimalistic lifestyle, and this is like the epitome of it, because I'm not going out spending money, going to the bars, this, and this. Like I'm inside taking like coding classes just to improve my self-development, but also having the time to like take things slow. And I think that's the silver lining of this whole thing for me, is just being able to finally feel like I have time. Because so many people say like, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. But for me, it's like, what's your excuse now? But again, there's like exceptions to the rule, like people who are really struggling, and that is a whole different conversation in and of itself. But for the average person, like, hey, if you can work from home, like, hey, you have more than enough time to do the things that you've always wanted to do. Clean out your closet, learn a new language, and just all that type of thing. So
I agree with that. Like I think a lot of people like have taken a step back with this, and like with kind of, you know, like learning new things and things like that. And I know quite a few people who I've worked with in the past who kind of before they might have not had the time to go and do certain things or different like entrepreneurial things with, like, I work in e-commerce, so a lot of people were kind of putting off things to do with different sites, and a lot of people have been kind of learning a lot of new things. Like, you know, the internet is something like that everyone can use to their advantage, and kind of learn off of that. Like everything I know now, I've learned from the internet. And I think that a lot of people who are kind of sitting at home, who might not have much to do, and if they are kind of trying to find things to do, there's a lot of things you can learn on the internet, like coding, especially like things like that. I think that a lot of people can turn this into something positive, even though it's a very bad, negative thing. I think a lot of people can kind of take advantage of the time they have at home now to kind of reflect on themselves and, things they might have wanted to do in the past that they might have put off.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else want to add anything?
I mean, oh my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'll say one more thing because I got a jet here pretty soon, Blake. But I hope that there's some like lasting effects as far as just like I'm a germaphobe, so like I hope people keep their distance a little bit more and be mindful when they're out in public. And I think it'll change the landscape for a lot of people's employment, because I think a lot of people will be fighting to be working remotely now, since like that there is the capability to do it. And I guess I just hope that Costco doesn't keep having these lines stretch out to the parking lot and having the grocery stores crazy.
For sure. And also, if anyone needs to go anytime soon, just let us know. But I still have a lot more questions, so we'll see how long this goes. But there's a theory that this coronavirus, COVID-19, will just stay around forever because it continues to mutate with every host 4 to 6 times. So if that's the case, it might turn into like another flu where we can't cure it. It just keeps evolving. We could maybe push it back with like certain vitamins or things like that. What are your guys' opinions on that? Do you think this is something we can actually cure, or do you think it might turn into like another type flu, just a deadlier flu?
I think that's a real possibility. And if it does happen, I've heard doctors say like, oh, we would just like add like another shot every year, like you get a flu shot every year. But I don't really know like what would happen if that did happen. I guess if it mutates to get worse, I don't know. And you're having like such a hard trouble like making that vaccine now. I don't know if like starting over every year with the vaccine, how difficult that would be. But I feel like it's definitely a real possibility that it would mutate and it would just like never go away.
I mean, I think that, you can
Sorry.
go ahead, Nikita.
I was gonna say, have you guys ever seen the movie I Am Legend?
Yes. When he breaks that dog's neck, that was my favorite. I mean, my least favorite scene.
Well, like for the people who haven't seen it, it pretty much like there was this virus that went out and there is a cure for cancer and all the people wanted it. And so they, all these people who can afford it or whatever got that like shot, and they ended up turning into these like zombie creatures. And so it's kind of like a funny thing, but I'm just thinking, so what if it's like this? Like, what if someone makes a cure for this like corona and then everybody wants it and then we actually go into like legit apocalypse mode? Like, I don't know. I was just thinking like, this is a conspiracy podcast, so these are my conspiracies.
Now, luckily, it's going to be the rich people that get it first. So us poor folks will get the chance to be like, do I want it or do I not?
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Fierley? That's a real possibility, though, because people are trying to rush a cure. So
I can't remember. After listening to everybody's response, I'm just like caught up in what everybody said.
Yeah, no worries. Motion, you want to add anything about that? About it maybe just sticking around forever, or there might be finding a cure?
I mean, to be honest with you, like I look at it really in like the physical sense, and then almost kind of in like what would be, I guess you could call like a metaphysical realm or like lens. But like I'm looking at it in the sense of like the coronavirus itself, yes, will like probably be around for like, good amount of time because of the mutations and, just, constant contact with other people, things like that. But I also think like the mindset that kind of came with the coronavirus, which is more so like, oh, like I need to, maybe stop and add more mindfulness to my life, or I need to, do these different, self-reflections, or like really kind of tune into myself to, do whatever I need to do to, kind of take this time and utilize it. I think that'll also be around for quite some time too, which that I don't necessarily see as so much of a bad thing, but definitely like hopefully not at the expense of, something like this to, continue to go on and like be more and more detrimental. But yeah, that's kind of my thought on that though.
I guess to weigh in on the end of it all, if you check it's documented that the second wave of the Spanish influenza in 1918 killed more people than the actual First World War, because everybody was so excited to get out of quarantine and go celebrate and be with everybody. But they didn't have knowledge of mutations. So I guess it would really, hopefully it doesn't come to any sort of fatality point where we have to keep counting people who are dying. But I guess it's really that's what's gonna give us the biggest sign of how severe this could get, is once we think it's gone, like the calm before the storm, right? Hopefully that's not what's gonna happen. But it's like, I mean, if history repeats itself, maybe we should continue to use heavy precaution for the next 6 months to 12 months, rather than have 6 to 12 million people die. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you do, right?
Right. So there's a few like websites I look at. The main one I look at is Worldometers, which shows like all the different deaths and total cases and how it evolves every day. And looking at the numbers, this is definitely not going away anytime soon. And for everyone to actually officially like leave the house, realistically, the number of people getting it has to be completely zero. Because even if there's just one person having it, they can spread it to someone and another person gets it and everyone gets it. So what everyone's weighing out right now is, in Washington at least and everywhere, is whether we should actually leave on May 4th and everyone go back to normal, or hold out for a few more months. What would you guys rather see? Risk going on May 4th and people dying like wildfire, but maybe that be the end of it, or be safe and push it back a few more months?
I think that a lot of
oh, go ahead.
I think a lot of people that are kind of pushing towards wanting it to be May 4th are the people who are having trouble either like financially, or people who want their lives back. And I think that that's a lot. Even though it is very important, but I think that it should be kind of, the saying like better safe than sorry. I feel like that, the numbers now are in the millions and it's just like crazy. But I think that if we're kind of rushing the whole thing, it's obviously going to end up to where this isn't going to go away anytime soon. And it's probably going to get worse if a lot of people are going to go back to their normal life where they're kind of hanging out with people and like next to each other and everything like that. I feel like it's just going to be a lot more people contracting the disease, which is just going to be a lot more dangerous. I think it should probably be a lot longer than May 4th, like multiple months, or like, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Gavin, because I think about it this way, like if these like past couple like weeks or months have been like horrible and people want to like leave and get out, like they should think about it more of, if it gets worse, then we're like erasing all of our work that we've been doing as a country or society the past couple of months or weeks. So I feel like we shouldn't jump to anything too quick, and that we should make sure we take our time to do this correctly instead of celebrating or changing this too quickly.
I think that the governor will extend it, just because he's been like the one, I mean, not the one, but one of very few states that have been, or that were like on the, like it was California, Washington, and I forget what the other state was, but they were like first to be like, okay, yep, we're shutting it down. Like it's done. And then that's when the other calls were made. But just because he's been pretty on top of it, I feel like, in comparison to how the rest of the leadership, to say the least, is handling it. So I think that, to set an example, that he will extend it.
Yeah, I do think he does have a mind of his own when it comes to this. Like even today he was posting about how he disagrees with how Trump is handling it. But I think when it comes to laws and things, Washington's pretty progressive with how they handle things. But yeah, is there anything you want to add to this, Nikita?
No, it just sucks a little bit thinking that like staying in, because this was my year of travel, and yesterday, a few days ago, I had to cancel my flight to Hawaii, and it was in June, but because it was that May 4th deadline, I was like, I think it's going to go further. And I think that, let's just say everything is all good, or they can take down those like stay-at-home laws, doesn't mean that, again, the virus isn't still around, or, you know, I get on the plane in June and I'm stuck in Hawaii because they did that ban where if you're, if you are a visitor, you have to stay in for 14 days and quarantine yourself, and then you can go out. And my trip was only like 6 days. So for me, it was just like, I'm not going to take any of these risks. Like, I'll just cancel the whole trip. And luckily, like, flights have been super flexible in giving refunds or credits. But it's one of those things that it sucks that no one saw them. But when it happened, people should have saw this coming and took extra precautions. So.
Mm-hmm. I have one more question, and then Motion can take it from here. But would you rather the president or the governor just flat out say we're going to be in here for 5 more months, or would you rather them say, oh, here's a few more weeks, those weeks go by, here's another few more weeks, oh, here's another few more weeks?
Let the rope. Just let us know. People got to plan their lives. People got stuff they need to do. They need to know what they're going to do for the next 5 months. You can't string somebody along. That's kind of what my work has been doing, actually. It's very frustrating. They say they're going to give more updates on Monday. And it's like, we know you're fighting because half the business that I work for is eligible to be open, half of it isn't. And so they're fighting constantly, trying to get it deemed essential. And so like, it'll be like 1 week, okay, we're going to do this. And then the next week, okay, we're going to do this. And it's like, well, how about you just say, we're going to be out for 5 months until further notice. And that way it's like an on-call situation, right? I can plan for the worst, but expect the best. And it's not lingering, it's not dangling in front of me. I just want to know.
Right. The pushback that would be against that is, sorry, does someone want to talk? Or?
I was going to say that, like, also it's like an ever-changing situation. So I think I'd rather people or the government say, like, take this as it goes and not set like in stone some deadline. More like just like every couple months we reevaluate and look at what's happening, besides saying, oh, 5 months from now we're gonna be okay. Because honestly, like, nobody knows what's gonna happen. Nobody knows if it'll be 5 months or if it'll be 2. Like, no one knows like what's gonna happen. I think if we like go with the kind of go with the flow with the virus, and just like, instead of making like clear-cut plans, I think that would be a better course of action.
Oh shit! Sorry, I'm just excited about this one question. You can go, Motion.
Oh, that wasn't me.
Oh, it was me.
Oh, you want to go, Gavin?
Yeah, I just had one thing to say. I agree with both of you guys. I think that a lot of people who are working, this is definitely really frustrating, because a lot of people are kind of being put off by a lot of businesses and things like that. And it's obvious that a lot of them are severely being affected by this. A lot of them are having to shut down. I've kind of experienced a lot of restaurants that I've even like used to go to have just been fully shut down. They're not doing takeout or anything, like things like that. I think that it's better to play it by ear, but I don't think that I don't think weeks are a good idea. I feel like it should be like every 2-3 months maybe, or something like that. So it does give lots of people time to prepare, but I feel like it's also enough time for, this virus to kind of calm down, hopefully. And then, when those 2 or 3 months are over, they can reevaluate and then deem another however amount of time. So I feel like it should be kind of like meeting in the middle for everyone, which probably will help.
For sure. Does anyone else want to say anything, or because I have a? Okay. So I really like that idea, Gavin, the meeting in the middle, because in a sense, when you push it back a little bit, in a sense, it gives people hope. But then if you're like, oh, it's going to be 5 months, then people are like faced with like the reality. And that's honestly, and this is what my family's already talking about, is if you do say it's 5 months, and people already are out of a paycheck right now, or they have less than $1,000 in their bank, or just don't have enough money to pay rent. That's when like militias start getting formed. People start raiding houses, things like that. When they're like, 5 months, we can't even survive another week. But if they say, oh, maybe another week, then we can maybe hold out. But for like 5 months, that's all I wanted to say. It's just, there's so much to weigh out. And then like even scientists can't give anyone a straight answer. So it's just society as we know, it's kind of just freaking, but you have to like stay calm, I guess.
Yeah.
So you could take it from here, Emotion.
My man. Yeah. Not necessarily to weigh in on this one, but like to kind of piggyback off of that and ask a question. Like again, another just open, question for everybody. I've heard a lot of like people saying kind of like, the idea of like, where were you when like the world like stopped? And like my question to you guys is like, and a pretty informal question too, but it's just like, like what do you guys think about as far as just like the old things that like you might have done? And this might even been like just a month ago, but like for myself, like, I sit in the house all the time. And I used to go to the movies all the time. And then I think about it now and I'm like, what, like, what does that look like? So like, like kind of just looking back on like old things that you might have done, or like, maybe you used to have something you did regularly throughout the week. And now, it seems almost kind of like, damn, like, am I ever going to do that again? And of course the answer is probably yes, but just like my question to you guys is like, where were you when like, quote unquote, like the world stopped,
Are you wanting this? You want me to like answer you like from the future, or like you want to literally know where I was when I found out like, oh snap?
I mean, I guess more so like it's more of like a question like to kind of look in more of like how did you feel like looking back? Like I look back and I know like a month ago I was with the kids that I work with, and I was like, hearing that like I wouldn't get to see them for a while. So like I remember like from now, like present tense, all the way past tense, like, oh shit, like okay, yeah, a month ago I really was like out here doing this and this, and now it's like, that's almost kind of like I'm like, damn, it has been a while, or we have to resort to doing these things. So I'm just asking you, like, more so of like maybe a month or so ago, like, where were you, what was your life like? Because I'm sure it wasn't the four walls now, so like just checking.
For sure, no doubt. Okay, for sure. Well, I have a 6-year-old son, so I guess the moment for me was when I found out that he wasn't going to be going to school anymore. Not just for a couple weeks, but like school's out for the year, school's out for the summer, you know what I'm saying? As you know it.
Right.
So that was really eye-opening for me, because it was like, shit, my son is in kindergarten. This is his first experience of what a school-like structure is supposed to be. Now, forever moving forward, this is going to be kind of a weird situation for him. Maybe he's going to find that he, didn't like going to school for whatever reason. He's a kindergartner, so who knows? But whatever is going on, like that could be weird down the road. So that's, for me, looking back, for having to play the role of dad and as teacher, it's been pretty wild. I mean, obviously being a dad, you're already a teacher, but you don't have a degree on how to teach early childhood, and you don't know about early childhood development in the sense that a teacher would. So, I mean, I can see his development is progressing, but it's definitely weird to have it from that perspective, when that was never supposed to be my role. Looking back, I can see my life has changed quite a bit. I've done a lot more research on how to be that type of parent, almost like a real homeschool parent, almost taking on that full-time role. So looking back from that perspective is pretty crazy. From my own personal perspective, I used to have all kinds of musicians and local artists coming in and out of my house, and it's really hard to let that go. Meeting new people online is pretty cool, and growing in that sense is definitely a new perspective. But it sucks. I know you said you were an extrovert, Sarah, so it's definitely hard to, I identify the same way. It's hard to let all of that go. Just thinking about it, it's like, shit, oh, it would be cool to have some people come kick it. So there's definitely going to be a day 5-10 years down the road when you're like, you refer to something as pre-2020. That's a pre-2020 thing. It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, to just kind of like build off of that, like first, even though it, like, I imagine it's probably very overwhelming. I don't have kids of my own, but you are also setting a good like teaching example and learning example for your child. Like they get to like learn in this environment where they're safe and like they're they know that the person teaching them cares about what they're doing. And, you know, we can't say that all kids across the country have that. Yes, but I still think that's really cool that you're doing that for your kiddos. So that's really awesome. My day to day, you know, homegirl woke up, she goes to work and, you know, complains about work while at work with all the coworkers, and then, you know, would go home, maybe stop at the gym like once every maybe 2 to 2.5 months. Yeah. And and then you know, just come home and chill. I mean, I'm in graduate school, so it's still like I still have stuff to do when I get home, but that was what it looked like. And, you know, some days, you know, my coworkers and I would go out to the bar and have a drink or something, complain about work more, and like say the things we can't really say at work when we're complaining at the bar. And but it's like now, you know, we're all kind of talking and we're like, oh dang, like, are we ever going to be able to go out to dinner again? And I have one coworker in particular that we will just like stand at our desks and just like talk about like life things or like issues so that we're kind of like dealing with. They don't ever mean to start that way, but that's how the conversations go. And it's like the other day I was like, damn, like I really just like miss talking to you, dude. like I have all these problems and stuff going on, and to not physically express them to somebody has been really challenging. So, but yeah, it's like now I look back and I'm like, wow, maybe one day I'll get to see you in person and talk with you. But yeah.
For me, when I first found out when this all started, I was like still in school, obviously. So I'm a high school senior, and like just like the weird feeling through like the school and the halls was just like kind of like overwhelming, like dread almost. It was so weird. Nobody wanted to be like near each other, and especially for a class of 2020, like me and my friends, like there's a bunch of people who like we know we're probably never going to see again, like our teachers or just like friends you know just from school who like you're not actually close enough to like see outside of the like school. And it's just like a really weird feeling, and especially for us, like not having a graduation to experience or a prom, it's just really weird feeling. Like it's like kind of like everyone's sad, but no one can like point fingers or blame anyone. It's kind of like you have to accept it no matter what. And personally, for me, it was a lot rougher too, because at the beginning of the year, I missed school from all of October to the end of December because I was going through a bunch of health issues with my heart and stuff, and I was in the hospital for a while. So one hand, like I'm thankful that that's not happening now, and I'm out of it, and I got that all figured out. And it's not happening with all the virus stuff going on now. But at the same time, when I was going through that, I used like my motivational like aspects to use like graduation or prom or coming back to see my friends and experiencing my last year of high school with them. That's why I like fought so hard to come back and not like take this year off and restart my senior year. I wanted to make sure that I had all these fun memories. And now it's kind of really disheartening because now me and all my friends and people in my class all across the country, we don't get to experience any of these things that we've been thinking about since for however long. Like me, like I've been wanting to have like a fun graduation for a while, and it's something I really wanted to do. So it was a really weird feeling in the school when I first found out, and everyone was really sad, and they all had their own issues with the closing and all of that.
For sure.
For me, I kind of had a perspective at the start where I feel like a lot of other people, you know, throughout the country, when their school got canceled, I feel like a lot of people were kind of expecting this to be something where it was like, oh, maybe, or even for people who were working, I feel like this was maybe something a lot of people weren't taking as seriously originally because, you know, the deaths weren't as bad, but like, I think a lot of people were thinking of it as just like, oh, this will be a 1-2 week break, because our school originally had only been canceled for, I think it was 2 weeks or something. So a lot of people were seeing this as a 2 weeks to just do whatever. And it was just like a regular, oh, like an early spring break or something like that. But I feel like a lot of people kind of when they were sitting at home, if they were watching the news or something, they began to realize, oh, this is a lot more serious, and there's a lot more people dying than I thought there like actually was. And I think that was like a big wake up call for everyone, especially for me. I originally was kind of thinking that it was going to be a thing for me to be able to grow at the start, where I was just like, oh, it'll be more time for me to reflect on myself. But I didn't realize I was going to be doing all of that from home. And I think this has been kind of like, I myself am a lot more extroverted as well. So I kind of live off of talking to people, and it's kind of just been very weird right now because, I'm sitting at home all day, but I've been trying to like meet a lot of new people online who kind of do the same work in the same field that I've been in. And I think that's been nice to kind of be able to get to talk to more people. But I just think that a lot of people who were expecting, like, for example, like prom and graduation, it is like very sad to see just like a lot of people kind of have to see what they were looking forward to kind of just crash like down so fast when they weren't expecting it.
Yeah, I know for me, I graduated last year and I did running start. So I was ahead of all the people like my peers. And now my best friends are going through graduation and they're super duper pissed. They're like, I want money back from the university because that's something I was looking forward to and all of that. And I feel really bad because there's nothing I can do in that situation. But I would hope that, at least if you're with your families, that you will all spend it in a special way, because it's definitely not a year that you're going to forget ever. But for me, like pre-corona, I felt like I was in like a perfect situation where I made it to the last round of an interview at this big tech company in Seattle, and I was super stoked because finally I was going to get like a big girl job. And I was planning for all of next year to just go travel like 3 months in Thailand and 3 months in France and 3 months in Indonesia, like a eat, pray, love type of situation. But now I feel like I have to postpone it and cancel it. And so it makes me a little sad knowing that I have to wait to start living my life again, because just when I felt like I had a grasp on it, like I wasn't on autopilot anymore and I was living the life that I wanted to live, something just like said, okay, wait, slow down, you're going too fast. And that's this corona thing. And other than that, I really do feel for people who are in school too, just because online learning is really difficult if you've never done it before. And I actually really like learning online, so I don't have a problem with it. But I know I feel like especially in high school, you're missing out like all those different things that you experience in high school, like your senior year. Like that was unforgettable, but it's like taken away from you. So I definitely feel for you guys.
For sure. I'm a really big planner. I like to plan everything out in advance. So, like I planned for a job promotion in May, which I'm still planning on getting. So I plan for like when I'm going to get hired by a new job, when I'm going to take the next step with my podcast, when I'm going to have a certain guest on. Sometimes like I literally like will plan to have an artist on in like 2 months in advance, even if I could have them that certain day, because I think timing is everything. So my family's like always been a big planning family. So I kind of realized it because I live in Snohomish now. I grew up on Mercer Island with Carter and Gavin. And the first case was actually in Snohomish when in Washington. And I saw it. Like I saw it on the. Like I woke up in the morning because like the first thing I do in the morning is check all the hip hop blogs, check all the shoe blogs. Sometimes check the news. And I woke up like one day and I was like, oh, some guy died from some random virus. I didn't really say much about it, but because we were in Snohomish, like my family started talking about it and saying we should start preparing for this. So I like planned one last trip to my cabin before this whole thing happened because we realized it was going to be serious. So I planned like a whole entire week just at my cabin. Like it's on like the river in the woods. And literally that night I got back from my cabin. I got back at 4, and then at 5 p.m. like Governor Inslee said that we were going to be like in here for a while. So it was like I literally lined up everything exactly. It's kind of weird, but yeah, I'm not trying to be pessimistic about this whole thing, but because I'm a pretty optimistic person. But yeah, we'll probably be in this for the long haul. So that's why, like me and Emotion, we actually recorded our first episode like almost 2 months ago, and even for that, like I could have put that out that weekend because I had it already edited. Like we didn't have an intro yet, but if I wanted to, I could have literally put it out the next day. But I held on to it because I felt like there was a need to hold on to it. And then we put it out a week ago because I thought that was the perfect timing. Because I started to notice with my NAS podcast, I wanted it to be like an inspirational podcast for like everyone. But then it started focusing just on music, which I'm all about anyways. But then I started realizing like normal people couldn't hop on it anymore because like I was telling Carter like when I first started, yeah, you can jump on my podcast sometime. And like we just never followed up. I started getting bigger artists, and I started realizing that I couldn't work with like SoundCloud artists anymore because I have like a bigger, like I want to help everyone, but like credibility is a big thing too. So like if I'm like yesterday I interviewed CeeLo Green, so I can't have CeeLo Green on and then tomorrow have on Mr. So-and-so who only gets 20 plays on SoundCloud. So we decided to create this podcast to give everyone like an inspiration, just a like normal Joe like me, and everyone's just a person, but some people are able to like make money doing what they actually love while others are not. And my main focus with my podcast are never to really make money. Like, of course that would be awesome too, but like I'm just here to like make inspirational things. And that was the goal with this podcast. So it's like really inspiring to hear what you guys ought to say. Because you don't need a Jay-Z to hop on the BBC podcast to be inspiring. You just need normal people who are actually dealing with it day to day. So that's the whole take with this whole podcast. But Emotion, you can ask a few more questions because I know I've been talking a lot.
Oh no, I didn't know if you wanted to end on that, so that was actually my closing question. But
You can ask,
I mean,
yeah.
but if we definitely want to keep it rolling, then I guess another question I would like to kind of ask you guys, just like, still kind of in the heat of, the coronavirus, and also just kind of looking, just being mindful as well too, and things like that. Just want to, kind of gauge the room and see like, what are some things that like you guys are looking forward to, since we've kind of talked about, kind of what it would look like, long time ago and whatnot, and, just bring them raw back up. Like, what are some things that you guys are looking forward to, once this is all over eventually? What are some, hopes or like whatnot, things that you might want to get back into, as well as like for myself, I like prior to this happening, and not to say like this was like not at all anywhere of a good thing, but this I think worked out in a lot of people's lives in an odd way, where it kind of gave that extra amount of time, but also I think it gave like a lot of different people and different, like myself, I identify as a creative. I think it gave a lot of different creatives kind of maybe a push or whatever they might have needed to use this time to be intentional about whatever it is that a hobby or anything like that. So I think, or at least for myself, when I'm trying to have something to look forward to post whatever this would look like, a time frame, is a lot of the projects that I was working on, or like I had like an EP I was like finally able to finish writing, and then now I'm like, okay, now I just gotta record it, so I'm like very much so just trying to keep my spirits up by like, okay, you know what, I finally was able to use this time, tell the story that I wanted to tell. Now, I look forward to laying it down and, getting a better love for the music, or better love, or, understanding, or putting more attention to detail and, people or relationships, or, things of that nature. So just for you guys, that was also my take on it too. But just, to kind of see what you guys were thinking as well, of like, hey, when this is over, I really want to blank,
I mean, just as like a positive thing, I think we've all kind of shared our experience, like, and how it's negatively impacted us. But just your friendly, positive reminder, every lesson that we're learning right now, whether that be you know, the self-care that we're making ourselves participate in. Or, you know, with me myself, like, I've had so much time alone, it's like the thoughts have been a circling. And so, you know, things that I have fears about and things that I am concerned about, I've had time to really sit with them and be like, okay, and like doing so in that, whether that be like a worry about, you know, whether you will get to travel. It's like you know, you could be learning a lesson now that's going to prepare you for that. And that's how I'm viewing every single issue that is coming up. So it's like, okay, I'm about to learn something here that is going to prepare me for what's next. And like, I'm excited for that what's next part, because like, yeah, this shit's rough, like, period. Like, there's no getting around that. Like, it is what it is, and so we all kind of have to deal with it. And you know, the most frustrating part of it all, I am also a planner. So you know, I feel like literally everything's up in the air and it's just froze there. Like nothing is coming down, and like the one barrier that's keeping it all up there is this thing that's limiting us from being able to continue with life. And like until that like glass slides away, it's like then everything will come down where it needs to. But it's like looking around waiting, it's like, okay, let's go. Like I'm ready to, you know, take the next step. I'm ready to look for a new place and move out. Like I'm ready to be graduating and doing all of these things. The waiting is the irritating part, but even with that, it's teaching us patience. Which if you don't have it, the world will give it to you. So yeah, I think that even with all of this, I think I'm excited to see what's next. I mean, like over the past couple of weeks, I've gone through a whirlwind of emotions, I would say, very like in tune, intuitive person. And I felt kind of like ugh at the beginning, but now it's like I feel a lot better about it. And so I'm like, okay, like, you know, accepting fears and like accepting things for what they are as they are is teaching me that skill. So then in other aspects of my life, I can do it too. So just keep that in mind. And that's all from Positive Patty.
I really think that the whole thing about going back to learning things during this time, I think that a lot of people can look forward to actually putting those things to use. So, you know, before this happened, I was kind of always meeting up with a lot of people who do the same like e-commerce as me through like LinkedIn. I do a lot of like just meet at like, you know, go to like Starbucks or something. But like obviously you can't do that now. And I've been online, I've been doing a lot of things like just meeting people online, but I've also been doing a lot of different like I've been using this thing called Skillshare, where it's basically this thing where it's just a bunch of webinars that you can post like different kind of tutorials on how to do different things. Like I took a Photoshop course a few days ago and things like that. I really think that, you know, when this is all over, there's a lot of different skills that people might have learned during this time where everyone's taking a step back and kind of reflecting on themselves that they can really put to use and use in their own character when this is over. Like I know a lot of people personally who have been taking a lot of time to reflect on who they are as a person, you know, their morals and things like that, or things they might have been doing negatively before this had all happened. And now they've had time to kind of reflect on all of that while we've had this break. So I feel like when this whole thing is over, or when people are able to kind of get back to their regular lives, I think that for me, I've been working a lot on how I am as a person. So I want to really put that kind of to use when this is over, with both like working with people and also kind of just in my own personal life. So yeah.
For me personally too, I'm really looking forward to hopefully going to college next year. Well, I'm accepted, but hopefully like being able to go to college. And I'm supposed to swim on the swim team there, which I hope can still happen. And throughout this entire quarantine, actually, I've been trying to swim almost every day, whether it be in Lake Washington or in someone's pool they let me use. But before, in like December and January, I was confined to a wheelchair because my previous health issues were I pretty much couldn't walk around where I would pass out. So I've use this time to help myself recover from that also, because before I couldn't walk and now I'm swimming like multiple hours a day. So I've been using this time to do that, which has really helped me because I've been always wanted to be a collegiate athlete, and I'm happy that, also kind of happy in a way that with this time set aside, I'm not distracted by like my friends or like partying or anything like that. I'm able to focus on the things that I've always been the main two focuses in my life, which has been like school and swimming, and that's really all I have to do with my life right now, which is kind of different in the past year. I'd say last year, my junior year of high school, I definitely got distracted, whether it be with my girlfriend or partying. I can definitely see how I let myself get distracted and like shift my focus from school and swimming to things that didn't really matter. And now going through all this and looking back, I can say like that was just like this is what I need to focus on. I've learned some lessons, and like now like put your head down, do what you have to do, and get the job done. So
Yeah, 3 key words so far that I've heard, and it really sums up like the silver lining of things, is what Bryan said: push. Sarah, push, preparation, and anticipation. And yes, learning is preparation, you know, setting yourself up for success and having that parachute before you take that jump, whatever it may be. And then pushing yourself as an artist, like now's your time, just do it. And then the last thing is just anticipation. Like we're all like so ready to just press that button to go, like after this is all like the corona veil has lifted. And so I think, you know, the funny thing with anticipation is like we wait and we wait and we wait and we're so excited or we're so nervous, and then it's really how we respond after this which makes, you know, anybody come out on top. It's again depending on like what you do. So I think all of us, all 7 of us on this group chat or on this recording, you know, as long as we use that anticipation to our advantage, and then just like a sprinter, just start running, I think we are setting ourselves up for success for whatever our plans are for the future and after this.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I think so. I mean, unless you...
Jay Fierley.
Oh.
Oh,
what?
Really? Sorry.
I thought you said really. I was like, yes.
I said Fierley, my bad.
Are you wanting me to reflect on what she said?
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap up on this note. Like I'll do I think Emotion will say some final words, and I'll do our little outro. So
yeah,
it's up to you, man.
No doubt. Yeah, I guess just this has been an introspective journey for all of us. There's not a better way to sum it up than that. If you haven't been being more introspective now than you have been in the previous months, I'd say take these moments now to really do that. Because you're not going to have this, never in your life again are you going to have this type of time where you can really reflect and sit by yourself. You don't have to escape to the bathroom at work. You know what I mean? You don't have to put your phone on airplane mode. Like now is a good time to just really sit and think, gain a new skill. Like you said, learn a new language. If you're an artist, focus on your artistry. Take a Photoshop class. You know what I mean? Like these are all really great examples of how you could be benefiting from your time. Make new friends, you know, make new connections, even if it's virtual now. I can almost guarantee it's not always going to be virtual. So I would just leave it at that. Yeah.
Okay, Emotion, want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, just want to definitely thank you guys for, participating in this conversation with us. I think for myself, like it's very refreshing to talk about this, as well as like talk about this with, a few people that I haven't had the pleasure to meet yet. So I think, to get everybody's insight and to, kind of just peek into their mind for a little bit, I think is, a large part of, one, what this podcast is, definitely driven for, as well as like, I think it's beautiful to, be able to make community anywhere that you go, and I think like, for some of you guys, like, at least for myself, like this is probably like, the most people that I've been able to interact with, in the past, week or so, and it's like, of course, none of us can really reach out and touch one another, but, it's just, nice to be able to still come together and see one another and, just break virtual bread, if you will. And then also I just, definitely want to emphasize and, leave on the note of that, definitely we talk about, a lot of the things that, we could, be doing and should be doing during this time to, prepare or, study up and those different things, but also want to, definitely just shed light on that, even if your process doesn't necessarily look like that, and, you're just maybe somebody who is just really taking this time and like understanding that, we're not trying to work necessarily during the coronavirus, but this is like a crisis, so it's like, even if you really, all you can do is not come out of this with a skill, or like just use all of this time to reflect, like that's very important, and like, also very intentional and needed as well too, so for, anyone who even might feel as if like, wow, everybody around me is finishing, music, or, doing things with, maybe the job or learning these different things, also to definitely just highlight, like, even if you're just spending that time just working on yourself and being critical in those ways, that's definitely like a very important contribution to, the greater picture. So, but definitely just wanted to, oh, I'm sorry. Were you saying something?
Oh, I said well said. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. My bad, bro. Thank you so much. So, but yeah, man, just wanted to thank you guys for really, pulling up and just allowing us to have this conversation. And, I look forward to, hopefully meeting you guys, from, far and wide, sit down one day and just maybe have this conversation again a year from now, but like in person, and just kind of seeing what what that looked like a year ago from that time. But yeah, I'm gonna pass it back to you though. But thank you guys really for, having this discussion with us.
So yeah, this is the second episode, and still there's some tweaks we're gonna fix, but definitely it's one of the things that I do want to highlight on like all the BBC podcasts is that it's all going to mostly be like raw. It's not going to be like different sections or anything. It's just like a conversation type podcast. We have guests on. Like a goal of mine is to eventually have like really weird ass people on, like a flat Earth episode where it's like the most hardcore flat Earth believer on it, and we just talk about shit like that, or just be random. But we also have times where it's going to be serious, and I think right now it's important to inspire others. So we're going to wrap up how I wrap up on my NAS podcast, which is I say, this is the NAS podcast with, and then everyone says their name. So this is the BBC podcast with
Jay Fierley,
Gavan,
Carter,
Nikita.
And Sarah, you have to restart.
Sarah.
Sorry.
I love how awkward this is. This is great. But yeah, I just I want to thank you guys a lot, and emotion, stay on the phone for a little bit so we can like just recap everything. But yeah, thank you guys so much for all this, and we'll be posting this in the next few days.